folks, and welcome to War Thunder with Flying Dodo. Today, for the final video in my series for beginning the American tech tree, we'll be flying out the F2A-1. In the introductory video on this series, which is linked below, I talked about using the F2F3, the P-36C, and the F2A-1 to get used to the strengths of US planes in general, and to try to help prepare you for US planes later in the US tech tree. This is probably my favorite American plane at 1.7 to fly. It's extremely well-rounded in performance, so let's talk about the strengths and weaknesses of this plane that it shares with later US planes in War Thunder. Most important, in my opinion, in this plane is dive speed. The plane can reach upwards of 720 km per hour in a dive, and still pull out of it as long as you give yourself enough altitude to do so without using full elevator. This fantastic dive speed, coupled with its sturdy airframe and wings, are characteristics that it shares with many of the US planes later in the tech tree. Below 600 km per hour, it's possible to use controls at 100% most of the time without fear of ripping parts of your wings off. This plane is slower than most monowing designs it will face at most altitudes, so having an altitude advantage to give yourself an edge in speed is very important in this plane. This plane has a two-stage supercharger, which switches over at around 2,800 meters. Unlike the P-36s, this plane continues to perform well all the way up to 6,000 meters. As a quick note, there's a performance drop between about 2,400 and 2,800 meters. So try to stay out of this zone when possible, especially if performing sustained turns or attempting to escape or chase down an enemy. It's capable of maintaining over 340 km per hour at 6,000 meters. To compare to some of the enemies it will face at this altitude, the 109E-1 can maintain over 380 km per hour, the Yak-1 around 330 km per hour, and the Ki-43-1 around 340 km per hour. However, entering combat maneuvers at 6,000 meters in the F2A-1 is a very valid tactic, and overall it can outperform many planes at maneuvering at these altitudes. Speaking of maneuvering, this plane does share, to a degree, a weakness of most US planes. While energy retention is quite good while boom and zooming and energy fighting, it loses energy quickly while maneuvering. But unlike later American planes, once it reaches low energy, it is still nimble and powerful enough to engage in low-speed dogfighting with quite good performance. Another thing this plane shares with many of its higher-tiered brethren is overheating. This plane does overheat. Above 4,200 meters, the air is cool enough that the overheating stops being a problem. But until that altitude, I use MEC to open the radiator 100% to help with cooling. Lastly, this plane shares the same armament as the F3F2. That is, a single 50 cal with 250 rounds of ammo and a 30 cal. Again, the performance of the 50 cal can be spotty, sometimes seeming like a cannon, sometimes behaving like a marshmallow flinger. The 30 cal occasionally sets things on fire, if you're extremely lucky. Now, let's move on to the characteristics that don't match up with most of its higher tiered stablemates. Most importantly and glaringly different is this plane's maneuverability. This plane loops, turns, and rolls extremely well at all speeds, but notably in low-speed maneuvers. There are very few planes that the F2A-1 does not outperform in at least two of these types of maneuvers outside of biplanes. Use this plane's maneuverability to win a match, but don't expect these tactics to translate to later US airplanes. Also, this plane climbs relatively well and can maintain over 17 meters per second below 4,000 meters, though at a low speed. With all of that said, let's move on to the battle. I've climbed over 5,000 meters. This gives me time to pick and choose targets and ensure an energy advantage over those below me. I can't stress enough how important it is to climb in most US planes, since generally speaking, their one strong suit is energy fighting. While you'll see me doing a lot of maneuvering in the F2A-1, it's the energy fighting this plane can do that will translate to US planes later in the tech tree. I spot a group of enemy planes and start to move in, waiting for one to make itself available to me for a B&Z pass. I'm coming in too hot as the fighting below me moves to a lower altitude, so make a loop to shed a little of that speed while keeping above my targets. You will notice the very good and tight loop this plane is capable of, even at relatively high speeds. This is a characteristic that does not carry over to most later US planes. I've singled out one of the Ki-10s, move in to make a pass at around 600 km per hour, fire, and miss everything, so I extend out the other side of the dive to separate myself from the enemy and regain altitude to go in for another pass. Notice the energy retention as I climb and extend out of that dive. It's quite good, and this is a characteristic and tactic that translates well to later American planes that you'll want to develop. This is my first flight in this plane in perhaps a month or two, so remembering and dialing in my aim is not going well for me, and it really doesn't get any better in this match. I turn back in and begin to dive again and pick the other Ki-10 as a target. He's turned in underneath me, making him a difficult target to hit. A short burst and I miss, and the first Kai-10 shows up sort of in my path, so I can make a small adjustment to a trajectory without fear of losing too much energy. I miss again and continue out the other side to again try to get some altitude over the enemy planes and give myself some distance to attempt another boom and zoom pass. So far, my rustiness in this plane is making me do pretty poorly. I extend and climb for quite a while, trying to set myself up for a better angle of attack to try and have them in my sights for a longer period of time to try and get some of my shots to connect. There's a lot going on down there, but the F3-F2 has taken out one of the Kai-10s, so there's going to be less to deal with when I get back down there. I turn back around and come in at a shallower dive angle, and the Kai-10 in front of me is trying to follow one of my teammates up, so it's at a very low speed and energy state. I open up on him and finally find my targeting range and take off his right wing. Kill number 1. I immediately go back into a climb and am rushing to put some distance between me and the other Kai-10 that is directly behind me. He's too close for comfort for me, and I want to get out of his gun sights as soon as possible without giving up my altitude advantage. He turns to fight my teammate in the Hurricane, and I take this opportunity to turn around and immediately attempt another pass on him. I see another Kai-10 headed in, but I want to finish this first Kai-10 and follow him down in his dive. However, this steep of a dive angle is not optimal. I misjudge his speed, and his maneuverability loops him outside of my aiming area. I fire, but miss horribly. I still haven't relearned my armament characteristics. I climb immediately, and now I've put my back to him again, certainly within range of his guns, but for some reason he keeps climbing. I give myself a little more distance, and then I flip over on my back in an Immelman. I get him in my sights as he's stalling out and light him up. That's kill number 2. I loop over immediately to dive in on the Kai-10 engaged by a teammate below me. This is again too steep of a dive to be really effective. I fire wildly and miss. I climb again into another Immelman, and you can see just how good this plane is at this. I'll remind you again to not expect this kind of performance from later US planes. He's in my sights again, and I still don't have my range dialed in. I miss while his superior maneuverability puts him outside a practical firing solution. I perform one more Immelman to keep myself above him. The maneuverability and power of this plane is really apparent during these maneuvers. I line him up again and try to shoot him. Finally, in my spray and pray spree, something connects and I get my third kill. Most of the maneuvers you saw in this last couple of minutes are not maneuvers you'll want to try often in higher tiered US planes. However, altitude and energy advantage can be kept at much higher speeds with similar but less extreme maneuvers in later planes, as long as you don't bleed too much energy. I start a shallow climb to get some distance and a little altitude over the Kai-43 that's made its way in. As maneuverable as the F2A-1 is, at this altitude the Kai-43 has a bit of advantage. I'm hoping he'll attack my teammates below me so I can use them as bait as I return. With all the terrible aim I've had this match, I am low on 50 cal ammo, and I can never really rely on 30 cals to do much of anything, so I'm a little worried about engaging this Kai-43 alone. The Kai-43 kills one of my teammates, and the other teammate has intercepted another Kai-10 that's on its way in, so for the moment it appears it's me versus the Kai-43. We begin the dogfight by passing each other in a near head-on. Neither of us fire, and then we begin to try to get each other to make a mistake in maneuvering. If he doesn't make a mistake, eventually his more maneuverable plane will reel me into a position I can't get out of. We both go into a series of loops, and then a short left turn, then a heavy right turn. Here you can see that the Kai-43 has a smaller turn radius than the F2A-1. I take a couple of shots, but I never actually had a firing solution on him. The Kai-43 begins bringing itself into a superior position by dragging me into a long horizontal turn. My teammate has dispatched the Kai-10 and has joined me. Now the Hurricane has made it possible for me to change trajectories just enough to get back in behind him, and the Hurricane and I take turns leapfrogging each other to get some shots in. Looks like we both miss, and then the Kai-43 changes directions to try to avoid our shots. This puts him directly in my path, and while I guess I'm missing quite a bit, something finally connects and he's caught on fire, and I turn out of his way until the fire finally kills him. That's my final kill in the match, kill number 4. So to sum up very quickly, this is a great plane to learn US tactics in. It has great boom and zoom capabilities and is a very good plane to practice these with. It's also exceptionally sturdy like most US planes. Practice energy fighting tactics in this plane and use its uncharacteristic handling properties to get you out of a mess when you've buggered up a high-speed pass. I hope this video has been helpful to those of you starting out in realistic battles in the US tech tree. And don't forget to watch the other 2 videos on this series if you found this one helpful. Like or subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, and have a great day.